Back to Maine, my thoughts are thronging. Back the alien duties call, and my heart is longing, longing for the sweetest home of all. 100 harbors before me.
Hi everyone, it's Sharon Kelly from the Berwick Public Library. Last March, when we had to close our doors due to the coronavirus, we had a musical program planned and we had to cancel. The Bilodeau Family from Lebanon, Maine, is a local family that just started playing together in public for the first time last year. Well, thanks to the Berwick Community TV partnership with the Berwick Library, we can now bring you that program. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the Bilodeau family's Back to Maine.
Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. We're really excited to be able to perform for you this afternoon. Thank you to the Berwick Library for sponsoring this concert, and we're excited to get to play again. For those of you who haven't seen us before, we're the Bilodeau Family. We have my dad, Brian, on the mandolin, my mom, Sarah, on the piano. We have Hope, Rachel, and Faith all play violin. Andrew plays the mountain dulcimer and whistle, and I'm Jonathan, and I play violin, whistle, and bagpipes, but not in this concert. Our goal is not just to entertain, although we want to be entertaining, but we are also going to be telling you some interesting history and stories about Maine, interspersed in between the songs. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So that was a tune that I wrote called Temper the Skillet. Did you know that Maine's coast is longer than California's? Because of the irregular shaped coastline, there is more land touching the ocean in Maine than in California. In fact, Maine has so many deep harbors that it could provide anchorage for every Navy fleet in the world. Unfortunately, all that jagged coastline can be very dangerous to boats to get too close, and Maine has had a lot of shipwrecks over the years. Thankfully, Maine's coasts are guarded by her iconic lighthouses. Between the New Hampshire-Maine border and the border of Maine and Canada, there are over 65 lighthouses keeping watch over our rocky coast. So, to those steadfast beacons of hope in the storm, we're going to play a lovely waltz, Genevieve's Waltz. So that song was about lighthouses, but light keepers, the folks who keep the lighthouses lit, have a long and storied history of heroism and bravery. One such hero was Marcus Hanna. He was third in the long line of light keepers. He was born in 1842, and he grew up at the Franklin Island Lighthouse, where his dad was stationed, and he went to sea at the age of 10. During the Civil War, Marcus was awarded the Medal of Honor for risking his life to get water for his company while they were pinned down during a particularly intense battle in the scorching Louisiana heat. After the war, Marcus continued his family's legacy and became a lightkeeper, eventually becoming the head lightkeeper at Cape Elizabeth Light in Portland. One night in January 1885, during a terrible blizzard, a schooner ran aground by the signal house. Marcus, who was suffering from a cold and had gotten less than 2 hours of sleep, risked his life again to rescue the two survivors. He had to wade waist deep into the freezing waves in the middle of the storm to throw rescue lines to the boat and pull in the sailors. For his extraordinary act of courage, he was awarded the Gold Life-Saving Medal. To date, Marcus Hanna is the only individual to be honored with both the Medal of Honor and the Gold Life-Saving Medal, the highest awards for heroism in both military and civilian life. So here are two majestic French-Canadian slow jigs, La Tourmente and La Maison de Glace. All right, so as I mentioned, boating off the coast of Maine can be quite dangerous. In fact, commercial fishing and lobstering are the most dangerous jobs in Maine. But it is a job that must be done. Maine supplies nearly 90% of the nation's lobster supply, about 40 million pounds annually. That's a lot of lobster. On fairly calm days, the boat rocks gently when the lobstermen go out to sea. But on other times when the seas are rough, the boat bounces and sways as it crashes down one wave and up the next. It is liable to cause landlubbers to get seasick. This next set of tunes is from the Shetland Isles, and it was written to describe a ship on the sea. You can almost feel the swell of the ocean and the crash of the waves, but don't get seasick. The full-rigged ship and the new-rigged ship. So logging is the second most dangerous job in Maine. Nowadays, logging is done with chainsaws and heavy equipment, but back in the 1800s, things were much different. Loggers, like sailors, were hardworking men. They would work 12-hour days felling trees with axes and saws. And they would set up their camp in the winter so they could drag out the logs on the snow and pile them by the riverbank. And in the spring, they would throw them into the river and ride them down to the sawmills. And it was a very dangerous job. You had to be a very nimble individual to nimbly dance across the floating logs and keep things from getting jammed up. All that hard work built up quite an appetite, and loggers consumed an incredible amount of food. On average, about 9,000 calories a day, which is like 3 times what normal people eat. But they burned all of it. You will not find an overweight logger in any historical picture. They burned it all off. In the evening, when the day's work was done, they would gather around to sing and play music. A lot of the loggers were Irish and Scottish immigrants, and many more were French-Canadian, and that's one of the reasons that the fiddle music of New England is so diverse, because all of these different traditions come together to form the New England repertoire of music. One of the songs they would sing was called the Shanty Boys Alphabet, and it was popular in the logging camps, and every camp had their own version of the lyrics. But we're going to sing for you our version of that song for you now.
A is for axes, you very well know, and B is the boys who can swing them also. C is for chopping, we first to begin, and D so merry are we. No mortal on earth is as happy as we. Sing hi-derry, ho-derry, hi-derry down. Keep a shanty boy fed and nothing goes wrong. Well, I is the iron to mark all the pine, and J is the jobber who's never on time. K is keen edges, our axes to keep, and H is the lice that keep us from sleep. M is the moss that we stuff in our camp, and N is the needle that mends our old pants. O is the owl that hoots in the night, and P is the pine that we fell in daylight. So merry, so merry, so merry are we. No mortal on earth is as happy as we. Singing hi-derry, ho-derry, hi-derry down. Keep a shanty boy fed and nothing goes wrong. Well, Q is the quarreling we never allow, and R is the river in which our logs plow. S is the sleigh, so stout and so strong, and T is the teams that do haul them along. U is the uses we put our teams do, and V is the valley we drive the logs through. W the woods which we leave in the spring, and X, Y, Z, that's all I'm going to sing. So merry, so merry, so merry are we. No mortal on earth is as happy as we. Sing hi-derry, ho-derry, hi-derry down. Keep a shanty boy fed and nothing goes wrong. So merry, so merry, so merry are we. No mortal on earth is as happy as we. Sing hi-derry, ho-derry, hi-derry down. Keep a shanty boy fed and nothing goes wrong.
Times may seem bad now, but in 1816 the world experienced the year without a summer, a disaster of truly unprecedented proportions. Mount Tambora in Indonesia erupted in a massive volcanic explosion, the likes of which has not been seen since. It was 100 times more powerful than Mount St. Helens, and the blast could be heard over 1,000 miles away. It launched 55 million tons of ash into the atmosphere, which spread over the planet, blocking out the sun's rays and causing the year without a summer. That year in Maine, there was a hard frost every month. Ice and snow were frequent throughout the summer months. A foot of snow fell in June, and in August, morning temperatures were consistently in the low 30s. Plants were killed and fruit was destroyed. Newly shorn sheep froze to death. Crops failed, and people were not far from starvation. Many farmers took their remaining supplies and left Maine, heading west to Ohio to seek better weather. Some 10% of Maine's population left in 1816. So here's a more somber tune for that time of hardship, the Star of the County Down. So while we are on the topic of ice and snow, Maine holds the world record for the biggest snowman. Actually, technically it was a snow woman named Olympia Snow after Maine's singer-senator at the time. She was built in Bethel, Maine, and was 122 feet and 1 inch tall, which is only a few feet shorter than the Statue of Liberty. She took 13 million pounds of snow to construct. She had wreaths for eyes, pine trees as arms, tractor tires as buttons, and eyelashes made out of skis. If you haven't seen a picture, look it up. You really have to see it. It's amazing. So we're going to play a tune called Cold and Frosty Morning. One, two, three, four. So our next story is about the first known elephant ever to come to America. In 1796, Old Bet the elephant arrived in Boston. She was eventually purchased by a farmer from Somers, New York named Hachaliah Bailey for the purpose of plowing fields. However, he soon discovered that she was far more valuable as a curiosity, charging his inquisitive neighbors 25 cents for a sneak peek. Over time, he acquired a few more animals and created a traveling show with Old Bet as the centerpiece. Bailey's Traveling Show and Menagerie was born. Interestingly, P.T. Barnum started out as a ticket seller for Bailey's Menagerie. He called Hachaliah Bailey the father of the American circus. Unfortunately, this story's connection to Maine is a sad one. While on tour in 1816, Old Bet was shot in Alfred, Maine, about 20 minutes or so from here. The perpetrator of this crime was a Shapley farmer who was upset that people would spend their limited funds on a circus. You'll remember that it was the year without a summer, and most folks were in dire straits, physically and financially. So one can understand, to an extent, the reasoning of the farmer, but it's still a sad story. It is believed that the remains of Old Bet were buried in Alfred, where she met her end. If you head into Sanford and follow Route 4 to the county jail, you'll find a plaque marking the location. So we're going to play a lament that I wrote, a lament for Old Bet, followed by a more upbeat, elephantish tune to celebrate the excitement a circus must have been in the middle of the year without a summer. So, a lament for Old Bet. So, unfortunately, the year without a summer was not the only calamity to befall Maine. In October 1947, a series of devastating fires ripped through Maine, destroying forests and property. Statewide, more than 200,000 acres, 851 permanent homes, and 397 seasonal cottages were destroyed by the end of the year. It was known as the Year Maine Burned. In this next piece, you can hear the fire start slowly but take off, burning the forest down, and then the solemnness as people come back to rebuild. So just a quick note about the year without a summer. Although 1816 was a disaster for most of New England, there was one very important argument that came out of it, and that was that Maine needed to become a state. Between concern that Massachusetts was not representing her interests well and the alarming exodus of people leaving, Maine started the ball rolling towards its independence, its statehood, which it would gain 4 years later. It's possible that if we didn't have the year without a summer, we would still be part of Massachusetts. Hard times give us the opportunity to enact change and overcome adversity. Oftentimes, going through hardships make us stronger. I would like to encourage you that even though the present circumstances are difficult right now, we will overcome and ultimately will grow because of it. Anyhow, on to some happier times and places. Actually, since we're at the library, this next story has to do with his book, Miss Rumphius. It's a popular kid's story. It's about a lady that goes throughout the countryside planting lupins everywhere she goes. And it's a great story, but it's actually based on a true story. That's the interesting bit. There was a real lupin lady who lived in Christmas Cove and secretly planted the flowers that adorn Maid's roadsides and meadows. And her name was Hilda Hamlin. She was originally from Bristol, England, but came to Maine in 1904 when she was 15. When she retired, she began to cultivate lupins that she had brought from England. She would cut the stalks off in August and shake the seeds out around her house. And then when there were tons of lupins there, she started to carry the seeds in her pocket and strew them on the path on the way to the post office. She didn't drive a car, but occasionally when she would get a ride, she'd throw seeds out the window when she thought nobody was looking. But eventually people found out about her lupin obsession and began to call her Hilda Lupina, or the Lupin Lady. By the time she reached her 90s, lupins had exploded through the countryside and are now a permanent part of Maine's exquisite landscape. So in this next piece, you can kind of imagine the flowers popping up out of the ground in the spring. So our next tune is as American as Home on the Range. You probably have heard it before, but may not have realized that it was written in Maine. The song Simple Gifts was written by Joseph Brackett, a church leader at the Shaker community in Alfred, Maine, in 1848. The song stayed with the Shakers for 100 years until Aaron Copland popularized the melody in his ballet score, Appalachian Spring. In the 60s, a hymn carried the tune back into churches, and in the 70s, folk singer Judy Collins resurrected the original words of Simple Gifts and performed it nationwide. Since then, it has been performed for weddings, funerals, commercials, 3 presidential inaugurations, and the Irish dance sensation Lord of the Dance. So next time you hear this tune, remember that it originally came from Maine. Play it on this one. So this next song, entitled Back to Maine, was written by Clara Nash of Windham, Maine. It was written 100 years ago, probably for Maine's centennial celebration, so it's safe to say that it hasn't been heard for quite some time. The tune was written by Irving Morgan, who is the principal organist in Portland, and was originally arranged for solo voice. This afternoon we're going to be performing it as a choral work. And we'd like to give a special thank you to Penny Laura from the Windham Historical Society for finding this song for us. It's a great tune. So without further ado, back to Maine.
Back to Maine, my thoughts are thronging. Back the alien duties call, and my heart is longing, longing for the sweetest home of all. Her 100 harbors keep for me a welcome night and day. Her sighing forests weep for me when I am far away. Her mountains, lakes, her singing streams, the murmuring pines refrain. Come, come, come back to Maine, back to Maine. My thoughts are thronging, night and day I hear her call. Night and day my heart is longing for the sweetest home of all. Back to Maine, my thoughts are thronging, night and day I hear her call. Night and day my heart is longing for the sweetest home of all.
So, some folks think that Maine's nickname is Vacation Land because of the license plate tagline, but the official nickname is the Pine Tree State, probably because Maine is the most densely forested state in the U.S., with nearly 70% of the state covered in trees. Earlier this year, before all the craziness broke out, I had the amazing opportunity to visit Australia and New Zealand, and while I was there, I was playing my violin to relax one evening, and a gentle breeze carried the distinct smell of pine to me. I'm not sure where the trees were, but I could smell pine. And it instantly brought me back to New England and made me miss home. So I started playing this tune, just composing it on the spot, which is something I usually don't do, but I guess I was just so inspired. And naturally, I named it The Scent of Pine. So, The Scent of Pine. All right, so we're to our last tune. We've taken a look at some of Maine's history, some of her heroes, some disasters. We hope you enjoyed the show and that you learned something new. We've really enjoyed playing for you. It's been great to get out and play again. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, you should check out our YouTube channel and send us an email at bilodeaufamilymusic@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you if you want to be on our email list of knowing when we'll be playing next, when live performances are an option again. If you send us an email at that bilodeaufamilymusic@gmail.com and say you want to be put on our list, we will let you know next time we're going to play somewhere, which, who knows when that'll be, but it would be nice to know. So to wrap up the concert, we're going to play a set of polkas. All right, cool. Hi, we're the Bilodeau Family, and we like to play music together. We hope you enjoy the show, and we'd like to thank the Berwick Public Library for sponsoring this concert, and the Berwick Television for making us look good. If you'd like to see more of the Bilodeau Family music, check us out on YouTube. Look up Bilodeau Family Music on YouTube, and you'll see other things like this concert. And if you want to know when we'll be performing live, whenever live performances happen again, send us an email at bilodeaufamilymusic@gmail.com and say you want to be put on the list, and we will let you know next time we're going to perform. Thank you for watching.